Greetings, this is UAP. I'm just going through some pictures here. I welcome you to the episode, the show, the video. Let's get started. It's a little bit of variety today. I think you'll enjoy it. Here we go. This is the Friggin 9 launch track southward from Vandenberg. Air Force Base, Space Force Base in beautiful Southern California. 47 miles of pristine, prime real estate coastline wasted on the Scare Force. Now, I wondered about the launches on the East Coast. I made a video about this. The Bermuda Triangle exists not because of any statistical increase in danger in that area, although they said it's shallow waters and there have been many shipwrecks, so many, blah, blah, blah. But statistically, according to Lloyd's of London, it's no different from any other oceanic region for danger of shipwrecks, plane wrecks, etc. But what is dangerous about it? Well, what's dangerous is if you're in the landing zone of these fireworks, these so-called space ships. They don't go to space. Nothing goes to space. It's fake. That's why we call it fake space, because you go above the Armstrong limit, a.k.a. the Kármán line, and it goes cartoon. It becomes invisible. It becomes something you have to take their word for, known prevaricators. So they say they launch east to get a boost of speed because of the Earth's rotation. The closer you are to the equator, the better. Yet they launched the Soyuz rocket to the International Fake Station from Roscosmos' location, the Cosmodrome in Uzbekistan, at about 46 degrees latitude north, really far up on the spinning ball. So their, quote, speedometer isn't reading quite as high as they're just starting off, like a helicopter does, being hurtled out into space. But here you can see they don't worry about going east when they launch the Falcon 9. They say they gain this boost when they launch rockets from Vandenberg. They launch not to the east. No. Oh, but it would be the Grand Canyon. I mean, what are the odds they would hit anything there if there was a problem? Because isn't it just so much of a contingency that it would come crashing back down several hundred miles away? Oh yeah, just such of a contingency. Yeah, they don't plan for that. The debris zone, the hazardous operations rocket launching debris zone, is an area bound by coordinates here in this screenshot from who knows where that shows exactly where these rockets land. So you could take this and zoom over to Cape Carnival, the clown show at Cape Canaveral, and overlay this, and you'll land it right in the Twilight Zone, the Devil's Triangle, the Bermuda Triangle. And you would find that, yeah, it's pretty much exactly what happens. The little red dot is where it launches from. People can see it. The boats can't go around the area of the border. They can't have drug trafficking and what other kinds of trafficking, just hopping on a boat, going in just offshore out of sight, and then just scooch on up and land somewhere in San Diego. No, or vice versa nowadays, just to get out of Biden's clutches here. No, it's not like that. It's a restricted zone, so who's going to see anything there? You know, the military has it blocked off. You can't just boat around, and if you happen to be out there when something came down and you saw something, they would you would probably wouldn't want to do that, because you're not going to be talking about it. Yeah. So, okay. Now, Eastern North Pacific Hazardous Operations Rocket Launching. Alternate an area bound by, yeah, so they block it off for days, this 24th through the 28th of December. Yeah, this is this is something that is hazardous operations. Space debris, they say. Space debris. Well, it's not space. It's from here on Earth. It goes from Vandenberg. Baby, you're a firework. It flies. It arches. Oh, it's going around the curve of the Earth. No. It's going around a curve. There's the curve. They find the curve. Behind the curve. What's behind the curve? Underwater. Splashdown debris zone. Yep. And they go out, they retrieve it all before anybody sees it. Now they keep people really far away, don't they? Because they want you to think that it's really powerful, hot rocket stuff and so much fuel and so much rocketry. That's why they call it NASA JPL, NASA Rocket Propulsion Laboratories in Pasadena, California. No, wait. I think they call it NASA JPL, NASA Jet Propulsion Laboratories. Even that's not right. It should be NASA BPL, NASA Balloon Propulsion Laboratories, because it's a raccoon. It's a rocket-propelled balloon. It's a jet-propelled balloon. Either way, you could use a jet. You could use a rocket. You could use something, but you have to use a balloon or else it's not stable. And your kid knows you can't push a pencil up by the eraser, having it balance. It's just that dog don't hunt. It don't work, fellers. So these reporters photoshopped in here in this fake farce of a photograph are really close to this thing, this balloon. We've seen the videos. They get banned. Those videos get taken down. The ones that show that it's really, really, really a balloon, especially the ones going back to the Werner von Braun days, because, yeah, he was supposed to be the big genius who makes these rockets fly, but no amount of magic can do it. It's either a firework, or it's a balloon, or it's a combination of the two, but it is never a spaceship. Oh. And this nonsense about the Earth's rotation. They fly to the east, they say. When it's convenient to take advantage of the speed boost from Earth's rotation, rockets need to be launched towards the east. Oh, yeah. Oh, well, that's the friggin' 9. It's the friggin' 9. It's the Falcon 9. Or even, yeah, anything with those, like, super special Elon Musk Tesla return to base homing pigeon boosters. Those are really always, yeah, that helps so they can do. No. How is it efficient if the thing has to fly back home? It's so ridiculous. Landing on the platform. Give me a break, guys. Just give me a break. Oh my, they always cut the video. Cut the video. Cut the video. Every time. Yeah, rockets need to be launched towards the east. So I'm looking at YouTube Studio, and I see changes in the ads, how the ads are rated, and they had this section for controversial issues. Controversy just means there's a debate. You know, debate, that whole intellectual exercise that is done to find truth. Okay, remember that? Back before COVID, there was something called debate. Well, controversial issues now, what do they say here? Content discussing preventing controversial issues. What's allowable? So it goes by, like, if you don't know, if you make videos, you click these buttons. If you click the first button, it'll say safe for ads still. If you click the second button, it'll say limited ads. You're a bad boy, but we'll still let you play. But you're bad. And that has the yellow icon that says, you are a bad boy or a bad girl, and we'll let you play for now. We'll let you play for now, but you are bad. You're bad, bad, bad one. Bad. And you're on notice, and we're watching you. And we'll let you have some ads of some like things with like embarrassing or disturbing ads, things like that is what we'll stick on you to turn people off and make them barf when they watch your video. But you won't make much money either way, or any money if you run any ads. But if you do, we'll find some reason to take it away. But until that time, we'll let you run it. And if you click the third button, that is like, no, you can't do this. You're done. You're in trouble. You're done. You can't. No ads, nothing. You're in trouble. Go to the corner. We're going to have a talk. That's if you click the third button. Content which focuses on graphic depictions or detailed descriptions of controversial issues. Content is either graphic or highly descriptive, with controversial issues being the central topic of the content. Oh, like CNN? Like every news outlet that puts out thousands of videos. It's for every other content maker, 3 strike on your one channel, 3 strikes and you're out. You lose your channel. So CNN hasn't put out 3, give me a break. But if you click the second one, it says content about controversial issues that are not visually disturbing, yet may contain descriptive language. Well, what descriptive language? What kind of language do you use? When I use language, I try to describe things. I'm not necessarily the best at it, but I'm pretty good. Content that is dramatized, artistic, educational, documentary, or containing scientific presentations of these issues. Well, scientific, that's a loaded word. Who determines what that is? The scientists? Scientists can't agree on anything except COVID. Now, content discussing preventing controversial issues. In other words, content discussing preventing debate, preventing dissent, preventing thought. Content discussing preventing anything going against the official state narrative. Content where the controversial issues are mentioned fleetingly in a video and are neither graphic nor descriptive. Oh, there's this thing and we got to stop people from thinking different about it. Okay, that would be that. I thought this was funny. If you're a fan of Pokemon, Ash, they're like, I don't know, 15 seasons, and Ash is with a different companion. It's kind of like Doctor Who, different one each time. But Ash has knocked them all up. See, now this is depicted as just this awful, terrible thing, but how does life go on? See, well, now, Ash, there is something out there. It's free. You can get it at any like pharmacy, or you can look at a billboard and learn about it if you haven't heard of it, and you can go get it, or your companions can get this, and who knows what will happen to whatever if they're breastfeeding at that time. Or actually, I think the FDA is approving something to prevent all this, Ash. So just so you know what that's probably all about. We don't know for sure. What do we know? Well, we know that the creepy banjo boy is all grown up. He's in the White House, or whoever's behind that mask. Joe Biden answers internet questions. Why do you suddenly have Chinese eyes? Or why do you suddenly have jet black eyes sometimes? Or a friggin' Joker's mouth that makes Heath Ledger's fake smile be put to shame? How do you do that, Joe? Masks can shrink and masks can stretch, but he didn't say that. Are you losing your marbles, Joe? My reply is hazy. Ask again later. Why have you called for debates to end? COVID-19 is Lord. Why won't Obama endorse you? God love you. Obama bin Laden is dead. How would you fight the cuckoo virus or covert? With even more pretend. Were you the banjo kid in Deliverance? Yes, it's the most honest thing he said, other than some of the things he said about being there being like 20 years of bloodshed and him having a definite stance throughout and being involved throughout the war in Afghanistan. What a shame. What an embarrassment. Now, these are some screenshots from a video that was on that Freevoice that Matt from Quantum of Conscience does, which I just thought was interesting. Like, why is there, I don't know, certain artifacts or blurs or just things with these images that they don't happen on home videos. So take it for what it's worth. Like the thumb here looks odd. There's another video I just happened to notice these thumbs in his video, so I'm looking when he's showing these creeps doing their creep stuff. Like here, this guy's typing up. He's hunting and pecking on a typewriter that is the same name as this yellow beer. Well, yellow beer, but the brand of the beer is yellow and it has something to do with like a crown. Yeah, you know that beer that is somehow related to covert. It's like the same thing or different or I don't know what, but it doesn't matter. Anyway, he's hunting and pecking on this typewriter of that particular brand that they feature, talking about how, yeah, we're all in on this something. I don't know. I'm being very careful about my words because I plan to upload this video. But again, look at his hand. And what I had noticed just through the presentation that Matt was doing on this, he was making very good points about the typewriter and the name of the typewriter and what are they even doing and that type of stuff. But I noticed the word hand kept coming up, hand, and just any phrase or any kind of use of the word hand, like sleight of hand, or we have these things in hand, or on the other hand. They kept saying hand in different ways. And I focused my attention, and they focus in and zoom in, or they zoom in real tight on him holding the paper when he's reading it, and they zoom in and they show his hand and they bring it into focus, and then they cut to the next thing. And so it's only a few frames, and you have to slow it down, and you look, and it's like, what is this, motion blur, or what's going on here? Because anatomy doesn't necessarily work that way, at least the anatomy with which I am familiar. But nevertheless, you be the judge. I don't want to sound like a crazy person. The Singularity University he talked about. I started to look into that. It was bringing up all kinds of weird stuff. Then I came across this other video. So on a completely different subject, which is unrelated to the previous slide and all that stuff. Because I kind of went down a rabbit hole. I'm not going to share it this time. About that singularity stuff and CERN and all that gobbledygook. There's something to it for sure, but exactly what or how much intelligence and energy I want to put into it, I'm not certain. But the number on the cart here, and then the level of tech, like how old is this? And this has to do with these pneumatic tubes. So this was a really good video that sparked some research that I had to, well, I've been doing, but I am taking another look because I made some conjectures quite a while ago about tunnels connecting London to New York, for example. There was an old movie that was supposed to be like science fiction, one of these early science fiction movies, but it was about the tunnel. I think it was just called The Tunnel. And there were some things I had noticed because I had been to New York City, and I went in the Holland Tunnel, and then I went to New York, or I went to London, and I was in the London Tube like a couple years later, like 3 years later, and there were some similarities that were so distinct, and I can't put my finger on all of them. The tiles I thought were what was similar, but they are slightly different. These white tiles, they have different dimensions. But there was just the overall dimensions, the feel, the sense, maybe it was just the particular smell or some kind of energetic frequency or vibration or depth into the earth, or just something. There were just some extremely congruent similarities I can't exactly pinpoint, but it got me going with my extraordinary intuition. Put it that way. Well, he discovered some things about it, and there's these pneumatic tubes that moved passengers, which goes way farther than I had realized when I looked into the channel. I found for sure, if you watch my video about this, for sure there was a channel before the channel tunnel, for sure. They had underground tunnels. In fact, I looked at the lines. They have these old abandoned lines they started to build, and they have a false, phony, fake, stupid narrative associated with how they started to build it and finish it off before it was complete, and then they abandoned the project in only a few years before it is even ever used. All financed by some mysterious person for some mysterious reason, and it explains why there's this tunnel that goes along and then it gets filled in. But if you look at these tunnels, the one goes and it points towards France, and then in France they have one that goes along and it points towards England. But it's not the channel, but the channel's right next to it. But it was going to be maybe a channel, but they didn't get anywhere. Well, okay, but then you go to the middle point, which would be the completion of the channel tunnel, and you find out that man-made island in the middle had already existed, and it too already had the tunnel underneath. So there you go. So if they did that and lied about that, which they did, I found, why wouldn't they have done the same thing about a tunnel going all the way from England to New York? And if they could do that, would they not have tunnels that go all the way to all these other places all over the world? I think so. Well, how would you find out? Well, you can look at this. You look at these stories, you look at the pictures. They fill in these things with these smaller tubes of basically the same technology. It's really easy. It makes sense when you have a tunnel going through under the river, under the ocean, under the city, whatever. You have to ventilate it anyway. So you're blowing fans anyway, right? If you're blowing fans anyway, why don't you form a seal around your car? Elon Musk is just figuring out how to do this. You form a seal around the car and you use that pneumatic pressure of the fans that you're running using energy to push not only the air for ventilation, but the car itself. And if you pull a vacuum ahead of the car, why, what happens then? You reduce resistance. You reduce that problem of pushing air because you're pulling it out, which pulls a vacuum, which pulls the car ahead. So you're pulling it from the front, you're pushing it from the back. You're just moving air the same that you would have to anyway, and you're moving this car along. Now, we know that they can pull energy from the atmosphere, but even more so, what I think is a diversion in this topic of atmospheric energy that's a very tiny slice of the pie when you compare that to the geothermal energy that you can get from running tubes down into the earth, creating steam and powering steam engines that run generator turbines to produce real powerful electrical energy and kinetic energy for air pressure, pneumatics, and a host of other uses. The old world did it. They did it as good as you. It's the same technology. It's literally the same technology that you would use today, except we're not even that advanced. We don't have district heating. We don't have district cooling from geothermal. It's so easy to do. You go down deep enough, it gets hot. It makes steam. Or you can find a natural spring and do it that way. Either way works. Well, they had these cars. They found this one. They just move along. They just move along in the tube. Very few moving parts. It's easy peasy, man. I wouldn't want to get caught in one of these dinkers, but this was just for delivering mail. And they screw up the narrative by showing little midgets or kids riding in it over and over again. But they didn't tell everybody about these tubes. They find them, and there's no record at all anywhere of these tubes having existed in areas. This is around London they found this. People find these things, they don't know what they are. It's a pneumatic tube. It's sent things, who knows how far, really far probably. They're all over the place. And there are so many tubes and cables going across the ocean from North America to England that in 1856, when the first transatlantic cable officially was laid that was connected and worked for any amount of time, they cited the fact that they had to lay it in a different area of the ocean that wasn't the straightest way between the 2 points because of the plethora of disused cables already existing. Now that blew my mind. That's in my video about satellites. Satellite, not satellite. They show these things, and they show them. Again, this artist looks like a good artist, but they're trying to make you think that he has no sense of proportion. Well, he drew a car that looks like the other one that we saw, but who are these teeny tiny people that would fit in like that, who look like adults but must be the size of children? Are they little people? No, because they don't have those proportions. The proportions of the people are about all the same. This is a man standing there in a train conductor's outfit. He doesn't have the top hat on, but he looks like a grown man because he is. The cart they're showing looks like the cart they showed, but that was a smaller one. That's for mail and packages. They had larger ones. Okay. And I think the car that these two people are sitting in is actually not that car. Looks like that car, but it's not that car. I think it was this car. It had been modified. And it's doubled up there. But these are giants. I mean, it appears to be. Because this artist seems pretty good, but apparently he woke up on a different day and just didn't look at the rest of his drawing when he drew this adult conductor man who must be 3.5 feet tall. But then I see the hats, and yeah. Now this guy is lifting his hat, and he doesn't appear to be any different, but no, it's very curious, at least. At least. And the stories that go along with it, they say, oh, well, the line was tested 15 January 1863, and operation started 20th of February 1863. Short journey for a little bit of money, nominal fee. They always made the electric trains and these amazing technologies, they made them so cheap that it was artificial. And you wouldn't ever destroy it or get rid of it. If you had this working, it would be valued. It's valuable. I mean, we don't even really have these drones working to deliver packages, and Those things are annoying sounding. I don't like this stuff. Is quiet. It'd be perfect. If you've ever used these pneumatic tubes like at a bank or in a large office building, I've seen them in a large office building in Detroit that I worked in. They're quite impressive. And these post offices look the same everywhere. So why wouldn't they be connected with these things? It's possible. Can't tell me it's not possible. And they called it airmail, by the way. We now think of airmail as being mail that is flown through the air in an airplane, or an air curve, or an airplane. But the actual, real, original meaning of airmail was and is now still intercontinental mail, but also express, but also the original meaning was that it was powered by air through pneumatic tubes in these containers. Airmail. And it says airmail New York. But do they not know what city they're in? If it only goes a few miles, does it make sense to put New York on it? Think about it for a second. Airmail New York. Does it make sense it would only go a couple miles, or would it be going many, many miles? Dozens of miles? Probably a lot more. Hundreds of miles? Maybe even more than hundreds. Thousands? Yes. Is it? Am I saying that that's what it was? No. Am I saying that it's quite possible, logically, based on the evidence that you see here, worth considering that it may have been? Yes, that's what I'm saying. This is all from the same video, the screenshots. This photo was very interesting. This was showing how they take the old world architecture that they can't destroy, that they try to destroy, but they just can't. And it pisses them off. And so they resort to something to get by until they can brew up circumstances to put some real dynamite to it to really take care of that superb, otherworldly architecture built by giants, for giants, built with technology we don't have anymore, because the concrete, the engineered stone, is so strong. The hardness, strength, durability of it is so impressive. It gets almost stronger with age. You've been around these buildings and you see these corners where they could hit it with a lawnmower every other week, year after year, and it barely even marks it. It just doesn't degrade with time. It just becomes more like a higher grade of granite or something with time. It's incredible. And the size of these blocks and stones is so large, you wonder how they could have put them up. Sometimes they're formed into exquisite sculptures, all the same or similar material. Amazing. And here they're just bricking it up with debris from other buildings that they could knock down, like what you see in the background where the roof is missing. These huge buildings, they didn't build that. They can barely even make the bricks that they're stacking up look like they're even going to be stable. And they're doing it with these janky handmade wooden ladders by hand, slowly. And why? Because they don't like light? Because they don't like space? Well, they like space. They like fake space, but not interior or exterior space. Anyway, this diagram shows the pneumatic train. It says section of the pneumatic passenger railway under London. And then I've seen these tubes. I thought they were ventilation shafts, and they may well very have been ventilation shafts, but the old world was much smarter. They didn't just have empty air-carrying ventilation shafts. No, they used this heavy gauge steel tubing to not only move air, but to move packages and things that they wouldn't have been able to move around by horse and buggy as easily as they could be moved, just allowing the air to push it or pull it or both, that you have to move anyway, just so that you have ventilation in your underground layer. Under the Thames River, it goes passenger subway. Oh, it's just a concept. Oh, it just represents what they... I don't know about that. We've seen these things. They keep finding stuff that is evidence of its existence and use. And a sudden calamity stopped it. And it's here interesting here they say that this embankment of the Thames was being built new. Well, the embankment is ancient, they thought, up until then, I believed. Correct me if I'm wrong. Those of you watching this video from London or vicinity, or people knowledgeable of such areas, there it is. These carriages, these cars moving along on rails, and these tunnels. The tunnels don't look that big compared to the guy up there. Maybe the guy up there was very big. It's quite possible. If you look at the width of the rails, maybe he's not so big. But I don't know that the width of the rails of these tunnels was something equivalent to the rails of the subways or the freight trains of today, or the electric trams. There were, I think, at least two different rail widths. But this is something I hadn't seen before, and you can see on the right, the rail kind of stops. It's been in disuse. It's either being built or it's been in disuse. It's been rediscovered. I would wager to say that it had been rediscovered, and somebody happened to document it before it was shuttered and closed out and hidden from history. The Crystal Palace, one of the most enigmatic old world structures there is, in my opinion, was an experimental atmospheric railway. It ran in Crystal Palace Park in South London. So Crystal Palace Park is where the original Crystal Palace was before it, I think, burned down. Though it was made of the most amazing steel that didn't rust and unbelievable amounts of glass that didn't leak, didn't break. Materials we don't know today. Materials we don't necessarily have the ability to fabricate today. Yet they got rid of it and rebuilt it, and then what they had left of it that they rebuilt in the other location was already incredible for one of these World's Fairs, and then they got rid of that. So they did slap it up really quick in that case, and they found a reason to tear it down and get rid of it. I'm going to do a whole video about these orangeries and crystal palaces. They're extremely fascinating, these conservatories. The tunnel ran for 600 yards only between the side and entrances to the park, and had to negotiate a difficult bend along the line. Well, that makes sense. If you're only running a 600-yard line, you would have a difficult bend. Who went through all the trouble to make that? Well, just somebody who wanted to sell tickets for 6 pence each. 6 pence, none the richer. Trains ran between 1 p.m. and 6 p.m., and the journey was only 50 seconds long. The line operated for a really, really long time. Listen to this. 27th of August, 1864 to sometime in October, 1864. August, September, October. Oh, a couple of months. No, 2 months. It's open for 5 hours a day. Yeah, they get 6 pence a ticket. Yeah. And you look at it, yeah, it makes sense that they would build that for that and just stop it. It goes underground. It's all this brickwork. Yeah, it makes perfect economic sense. Would you agree? There's no reason to question it, because they wouldn't lie. Nobody lies on official history wouldn't lie. Wouldn't lie. They wouldn't lie about anything. And it makes economic sense, it makes logical sense, it makes business sense, it makes historical sense, it makes engineering sense, it makes material sciences sense, it makes technological sense, it makes every kind of sense that this narrative is exactly something that derives from the absolute truth of what took place, and there is nothing more to this story than that to be considered. And here's some perhaps photographic evidence. It looks somewhat like a drawing, but I think it's some kind of bastardized version of the photograph. The drawing being more clear, but maybe even less true to life than this image that was made by circumstances I don't know. But when I look at it, I see there's this tunnel. It's even more brickwork, kind of the same shape maybe. And it goes in, and you can see that they built the train car really high for the height of the people, which I find interesting. And yeah, I think there's more to the story, don't you? It's unclear what became of the line, as records do not state what happened after it ceased to operate, although it has been suggested that Rommel had originally constructed the small line as a test for a larger atmospheric railway that was to run between the Waterloo and Whitehall. A formal excavation was conducted at the site of the upper station in August 1975. A brick tunnel too small to be running. A brick tunnel too small to be the running tunnel, and what is thought to be a retaining wall were found. The running tunnel was not found, and some believe that it may have been destroyed by construction work for the Festival of the Empire celebrations in 1911. Bum bum ba-dum, bum ba-dum, bum ba-dum. It has been rumored that the site of the railway is haunted. A popular urban legend of the 1930s, partially connected with stories surrounding the Crystal Palace railway station. Bullcrap. So you have that. Then you go over all the way over to New York. The Beach Pneumatic Transit was the first attempt to build an underground public transit system in New York City. Yeah. It was developed by Alfred Eli Beach in 1869 as a demonstration subway line running on pneumatic power. The subway line had one stop in the basement of the Rogers Peet building and a one-car shuttle going back and forth. It was not a regular mode of transportation, and it lasted a whopping 3 years from 1870 until 1873. Again, a narrative that should not be questioned. It makes perfect sense economically and otherwise that it would be done that way, right? No. The tunnel was almost completely within the limits of the Broadway line City Hall station, but it is rumored that a small portion could still be accessed by a manhole on Reed Street. The New York Historical Society commissioned a plaque honoring Alfred Beach to be placed on the City Hall station. That's how worthless those things are. Although the Beach Pneumatic Transit lasted for only 3 years, the project gave rise to the New York Pneumatic Tube Mail System, which was based on the request the Beach had made to Tweed, which ran until 1953, because that was allowed, because that didn't challenge the official narrative. They could leave that one in place longer. They have this drawing, which I noticed on the right in the writing, this is doctored and altered, because when I look at this, I see that where it says US, it looks like it is marked out somehow. And that looks fake as could be, this U.S. Pneumatic Dispatch. They didn't get anything right there. That looks so fake. Nice try, AI. Didn't fool me. Then you have this New York Post Office Broadway Underground Railway. Could it be that they even sent passengers in these from New York to London? Besides the airmail from Europe to North America before 1850 in hidden history. The pneumatic rail lines interior are shown here to be something extraordinary. It reminds me of the movie Snowpiercer in a way. There's so much interesting truth in that movie, although it's a little bit gory and such and so forth. Under Broadway, a passenger station, they show this, but, oh, they just used it to send packages. They said it was a novelty that lasted not but 3 years, they say, going not very far, yet somehow it's associated with the post office. What does the post office do that doesn't go very far at all, not more than a few miles? Is the post office involved in anything like that, really? Or is the post office really about something quite different? And they find these relics, these old drawings or photographs, perhaps. There's that abandoned railway. This looks like that. The one in New York that they couldn't explain, I think, has a lot to do with this. And it looks so ancient. It looks like it was filled in. It looks like it was made and halted by a sudden calamity. It was rediscovered, required very little excavation, but is quite ancient, if anything. The brickwork and everything involved looks anything but new. It looks anything but experimental. It looks anything but temporary. It looks extremely old. And it's sealed off. It's all sealed off, lost to fire. The remains were removed and lost by Cornell University. They do not know of its whereabouts. The station exists. It was rumored to be accessed, but the official narrative took it elsewhere. And then along with that, there's evidence of a radio teleview document at a distant station where you could sign documents. So go figure. Who knows? Well, I'm UAP. That's it. I'll end this one now. Subscribe, like, follow, support. Check me out other places as well. Bye-bye.